Exposed, the sinister secrets of my first night as a crematorium worker that haunt me forever tonight. I stepped into the cold, sterile halls of the crematorium for what I thought would be an easy job. A layoff as a bank teller brought me here, desperate to support my teenage daughter in our quiet suburban town. I never expected the nightmares lurking behind the doors. As I turned the heavy iron handle, a chill ran down my spine. The air inside felt thick, suffocating. Something wasn't right. Darkness descended outside, and the familiar sounds of crickets fell silent. I was alone, really alone. The only light flickered from a single overhead bulb, painting the walls in ghostly shadows. The clock ticked, each second echoing in the silence, amplifying my growing dread. I glanced at my phone. The battery was low, and the screen felt like a cruel reminder that I was cut off from the world. When the first body arrived, my heart raced. A gurney wheeled in, covered by a faded sheet. My hands trembled as I reached to pull it back. Beneath lay a figure I did not recognize, but it wasn't the body that horrified me, it was the slip of paper pinned to the deceased. The whispers it read. I shuddered, running my fingers over those frantic scribbles, secrets about our neighbors, our friends. Affairs, debts, even references to missing persons. The walls felt closer, as if they themselves were leaning in, urging me to understand the unholy message from beyond. Each night, I faced similar arrivals, bodies inexplicably tied to my small community's darkest truths. Fear crept in like a fog, blurring everything I thought I knew. The smiley faces at the grocery store suddenly morphed into sinister masks. Who were they really? What lurked behind their eyes? The whispering from that paper seemed to grow louder, gnawing at my mind with relentless terror. Then, it hit me, visions consumed me. I saw a woman, distinctly a mother, reaching out with desperation. Her eyes bored into mine. Help me, she implored. I gasped, the sudden shift from curiosity to dread seizing me. A connection unfurled, a link tying her to my own family. My pulse quickened, chills rolled down my spine. With nightfall, the crematorium turned into a bizarre prison. Shadows flickered, and muffled voices filled the air. Panic flooded my veins. Those cryptic notes weren't just about the dead, they were warnings. It became painfully clear something was wrong in our peaceful town. Corruption lay under the surface, intertwined with lives I thought were normal. Sweat dripped down my back, and my breath hitched as I realized I could be next. I was drowning in secrets, bracing against the walls closing in. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With every new arrival, dread turned to paranoia. The shadows felt more alive, lurking with judgment. As I planned my escape, a horrifying realization hit my gut. I was being watched, trapped in the web of lies spun around the crematorium. The town I grew up in transformed into a labyrinth of danger. I couldn't trust anyone, my neighbors, my friends, they were all potentially hiding unspeakable deeds. Driven by sheer panic, I bolted from the building, heart thundering in my chest as I raced through twisted streets. The familiar landscape morphed into a nightmarish maze, darkness closing around me like a vice. Every whisper of the wind seemed to carry secrets, taunting me. Then, as I entered the town square, a figure emerged from the gloom. Cloaked in shadow, they stood waiting, their presence heavy with menace. Jamie, they called, their voice dripping with familiarity. You shouldn't have dug so deep. My stomach twisted in knots as the weight of those words crashed over me. My breath caught, knowing I was about to plunge deeper into terror than I ever imagined. What awaited me in the shadows? A chill danced along my spine, and I instinctively took a step back, heart racing. The figure stepped into the dim light, revealing a familiar face, distorted by a cruel smile. It was Brad, a friend from high school, but the warmth I once felt in his presence was long gone, replaced by something cold and menacing. "Together again, huh?" he said, voice smooth like ice. "Did you really think you could uncover the truth and get away with it?" His smirk deepened, and something in his eyes hinted at a shared secret, one that tied us both to the dark underbelly of our town. "What truth?" I managed to croak. The sound of my voice felt far away, almost foreign. Panic crept back, twisting my insides. "The whispers," he sneered, stepping closer. "You just don't get it, Jamie. They always find you. You're a part of it now." A wave of nausea rolled through me. It wasn't just the dead that haunted this place, it was the living, too. The walls of the crematorium felt like they were closing in, the air thick with betrayal and despair. Each face I thought I knew began to morph into shadows. That smiley barista, the friendly postman, they were all complicit, playing their roles in this grotesque, twisted play. "Why?" I managed to whisper, struggling to grasp the gravity of it all. "Why are you doing this?" Brad let out a low, rumbling laugh, the kind that echoed with something unholy. "Control, my friend. Fear keeps everyone in line. Besides, you think those notes were just coincidences? They're our legacy. Secrets bind us. And you're about to learn just how tightly they're wound." I stumbled back, heart pounding like a drum in my ears. "I didn't want any part of this. I'm just trying to protect my daughter," I shouted, as if my desperation could slice through the darkness and reach him. My words, a flicker of something crossed his face. Was it regret? But it vanished as quickly as it came. "Your daughter? She's just a pawn in a much larger game. Do you really believe you can protect her? Not from what's lurking here." A sound interrupted us. A loud crash echoed from inside the crematorium. My stomach dropped, and dread consumed me. Whatever secrets were buried in those walls were beginning to rise, clawing their way back into the light. Before I could respond, Brad's expression shifted to one of sudden rage. "You should have stayed in your lane, Jamie. Now you're in the crosshairs." He backed away, merging with the shadows, leaving me alone, trembling in the night that I had to move. If I stayed, I would drown in whatever darkness he had unleashed. I turned to flee when I heard it, a soft, almost pleading whisper floating through the air, sexily lyrical yet chilling. "Help me." My heart sank. The voice was unmistakable, the woman from my visions. Before I could think, I rushed toward the sound, drawn in like a moth to a flame. I could feel my throat tightening as I stumbled through the dark, the whispers growing more distinct. All hope faded as I realized I was heading back toward the crematorium, back toward the source, as if a noose were slowly tightening around my neck. The door creaked open, shadows spilling out like a wave. My legs felt heavy, as if a weight was pulling me down. I peered inside, heart pounding, and there it was, the gurney, now empty, a chilling reminder of the bodies that had come before. What is happening? Then, from the darkness, a figure emerged, a woman, or what remained of one. Her face twisted in agony, eyes pleading. "You must listen to the whispers." The realization hit like a brick. This was more than personal. I was caught in something far more sinister, a dark game where every move counted. And suddenly, the lights flickered above, plunging me into darkness. Alone, I could feel the weight of the secrets pressing in tighter, and just before I lost myself, I heard Brad's voice echoing, "You can't escape what's already inside you." What now? What would the whispers reveal? As I grappled with choices I didn't want to make. In that suffocating darkness, I knew one truth: my fight for survival was only just beginning. I stood frozen, enveloped by the suffocating blackness. It pressed on me, an unseen weight that dug deeper with every second. Panic surged, choking my breath. Listen to the whispers. Would I succumb to whatever fate was waiting for me? Footsteps echoed in the distance. They were slow, deliberate. Someone, or something, was coming. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my body betrayed me, glued to the spot. The air shifted, a chill winding around my legs as a gust of cool wind swept through. "Jamie," the voice floated again, more urgent this time. You need to understand. It was softer, like a caress turned cruel, and my heart raced in response. This wasn't just a warning, it felt like a command that I forced myself to move, inching deeper into the dark. Shadows danced on the walls, my breath hitching with every creak of the building. I could feel the pulse of some dark energy threading through the space, alive and aware. Something was watching me that I stumbled into the main chamber of the crematorium, the smell of ashes and molten metal lingering like a ghost. The flickering lights overhead cast monstrous shapes across the walls, elongating and shifting as if the very architecture was alive. There it was again, the whisper, now filled with anguish. Help me! My heart ached at the sound. What do you want? I shouted, my voice hoarse. What happened to you? The air thickened, crawling against my skin. Suddenly, the gurney emerged into view, the remnants of a once living being. A woman's eyes reflected despair. I could only stare as her form flickered like a dying flame. They will come for you. What you seek is dangerous. Who? What do you mean? My legs quaked beneath me. It felt like a trap I was too naive to escape. The grin of Brad flashed in my mind, a broken mirror of betrayal. Control, my friend. Fear keeps everyone in line. The echo warped, and I stumbled back, pressing against the cold, unforgiving wall. Your daughter is a pawn. Those words echoed, circus loud, clashing with my desperate thoughts. No. I wouldn't lose her to this madness. But how to fight something that wore the faces of the familiar? Free me! The woman's voice twisted, pulling at the strings of my heart. Only then can you understand. Before I could muster a response, the lights flickered again, once, twice. Then darkness fell, more oppressive than before. The cold pierced through the fabric of my clothes, making my bones ache. I heard a rustling sound, a shuffle just beyond the periphery. Fear licked at my senses, vivid and relentless. I swung my head towards the sound, straining to pierce the darkness. Show yourself. In response, the shadows seemed to thicken, coalescing into forms that twisted and writhed. They bore down on me, whispers intensifying until they became a cacophony, a tempest of voices, overlapping, pleading, tormenting. Help us! Help! Help! The shadows lunged, cold fingers rushed to wrap around me, and for a split second, I felt them merge with my thoughts, unearthing buried memories, screams and laughter, and dread, a mosaic of my life woven into the darkness. Within the chaos of that moment, a realization struck me. I was no longer just a spectator, I was part of this horror. I blinked, desperately trying to hold on to the woman's eyes, the only glimmer of understanding in that sea of anguish. As I wrestled with the spiraling chaos, a shattering sound echoed through the corridors, reverberating against my skull. I turned to see the front door of the crematorium burst open. Light flooded in, driving back the shadows, but it wasn't salvation. It was Brad, flanked by figures in dark robes, their faces obscured by hoods. "Time's up, Jamie," he hissed, a malicious whisper rolling off his tongue. "You've made your choice." I stumbled, fear pounding in my ears like a war drum, realizing I had only just begun to scratch the surface of this nightmare. What would they do next? The shadows lingered, holding their breath, waiting for my next move. Was there any escape from the truth that was tightening its grip around my throat? Adrenaline surged through me when I saw Brad, his face twisted into a triumphant smirk. The shadows, once threatening but vague apparitions, now seemed to solidify into a tangible menace, encircling me like a pack of predators. The figures behind him shifted slightly, dark wings of dread unfurling as if they were extensions of his malicious intent. "Brad!" I gasped, instinctively stepping back. "What have you done? What is this?" I could hear the tremor in my voice. My heart hammered against my chest, reason abandoned me. "They're here to help you understand," he said, his voice oozing with satisfaction. "The truth always comes at a price, Jamie." His words dripped with malice, every syllable designed to twist the knife that was my fear. The cloaked figures began to chant, their voices merging into a single, resonating drone. Help us! Help us!" It was chilling, the way they echoed the whispers I had heard moments before. "Stay away from me!" I yelled, panic bubbling in the pit of my stomach. But the shadows slithered closer. A chill wrapped around my throat, constricting my breath, smothering any defiance left in my trembling body. "Your daughter," Brad cooed mockingly. "She's already part of the game." My head spun. I could see her face in my mind, innocent and radiant. They couldn't touch her. Not her. No. I shouted, the single word a desperate plea that rattled in the cavernous space. "You're lying." "Am I?" Brad stepped closer, his form almost dissolving into the murky dark surrounding us. "Remember the night you couldn't find her? We had our fun, but the game, it never ends." Images flashed through my mind, fragments of laughter filled with a treacherous harmony, playdates turned sinister under the veils of dark scheming. My instincts screamed at me. How deep did this rabbit hole go? The woman's ghostly figure stood behind Brad, ephemeral yet resolute. "Free me," whispered the apparition, and the dread in her voice reverberated through me. "Only then can you know the truth." In that moment, clarity pierced through the haze of fear. I lunged forward, breaking free from the weight of shadowy hands, reaching for the spirit that seemed to glow with an inner light. "What do I have to do?" I forced the words out, grappling with the shimmering glimmer of hope amidst the overwhelming dread. "Sever the ties," she intoned, her form flickering like dying embers. "Break his control." The chanting escalated, a tempest of torment wrapping around me. I felt the presence of the hooded figures pressing in, their dark intentions palpable. I was not just before the brink of truth, I was standing on the precipice of breaking a dark cycle perpetuated by fear. "Join us," Brad hissed, his voice peeling through the chaos like shards of glass. "Stay, release your fear, and partake of the power." "No!" I screamed, pushing against the evil forces clenching around my limbs. I was done being bound, a puppet on unseen strings. As I fought against what felt like 1,000 hands pulling me backward, a rush of clarity flooded my mind. I couldn't let fear win. It was now or never. This was my moment. "Help me!" I shouted without certainty. "Whoever you are, I choose to fight." In the next heartbeat, silence erupted, the chanting stopped, the shadows paused, and even Brad seemed taken aback. There was no turning back now. The darkness held its breath as if afraid of what I would do next, then I felt it. A surge of confrontation, the energy coiling up inside me, a strength born of defiance that sparked to life. Would it be enough? The shadows recoiled, a heartbeat of panic echoing through the stillness. A choice lay ahead, and I was about to make it. If only I knew what it would cost. Would I uncover the truth or succumb to the abyss? And as the clock ticked down in the silence, I contemplated the depths of my coming choices, unsure if I would survive to see another dawn. The silence was deafening. Every breath felt heavy as I squared up against Brad, aware of the shadows retreating momentarily, but their malevolence still hung in the air, a dark promise of suffering. I had no idea what breaking the control meant. Was it even possible? Or was I merely exchanging one chain for another? "Do it," the apparition urged, her strained whisper wrapping around me like a thin veil of ice. I looked at her, her form wavering like the flicker of a dying flame. I could see desperation in her hollow eyes. "Only you can do this." "Sever the ties," I repeated, the words tumbling from my mouth like a mantra. But how? I felt no ropes to cut, no visible tether binding me. Yet something deep inside my chest thrashed wildly, a gut feeling begging for release. Suddenly, Brad erupted with laughter, disturbing the fragile silence. "You really think you have any power here?" His demeanor twisted from cocky assurance to almost gleeful madness. Then, as if in response to my uncertainty, the shadows surged forward again, tens of limbs lurching toward me, attempting to reclaim their hold. Panic ignited in my gut, and I struggled hard against their grasp. "Get away from me!" Just as I thought they would envelop me completely, the Phantom's voice surged in my mind, clear and piercing. "Focus. Find the ties, Jamie. Behind the pain. As if slapped awake, I closed my eyes tightly, forcing out the noise, the chaos, and fear. With each inhale, I counted. 1, 2, 3. I gritted my teeth against the pressure. I could feel it now, a tether, faint and repulsive, lurking beneath the surface of my consciousness, feeding into my unease that I could sense where the energy waned, where my emotions had been twisted to serve Brad's twisted whims. In a frenzy of resolve, I grabbed hold of that sensation, a noose around my heart, and I twisted it, let go. I screamed, more to myself than the shadows that still pressed in. A surge of searing heat rolled through my veins as I pulled at the tether with what felt like every ounce of willpower I had left. The chanting shifted, turning erratic and jagged, as if the figures were losing their grip. No. No. Brad shouted, his expression warped from smugness to wild alarm. The energy crackled violently around me, and suddenly, a blinding light burst forth from within me, illuminating the space. Shadows screamed, shrieking figures writhed, and the chant disintegrated into panicked howls. But just as quickly, the primal fear surged back with an intensity that made my skin crawl. The light pulsed, flickered, and I felt threads snapping. Yet, the remnants of darkness still encroached, attacking the luminous energy I had summoned. Hold on. The apparition urged, her voice rising above the cacophony. Do not let fear win. I clenched my fists tight, willing the light to expand, grow stronger, maybe absorbing the shadows rather than fighting them off. I thought of my daughter. Images of her innocent laughter echoed in my mind, giving me strength. You won't have her. Just then, a figure materialized amid the chaos, a silhouette I recognized. It was her. My daughter stood in the distance, eyes wide with terror, reaching out to me. My heartbeat froze. Was she trapped too? The shadows dared to stretch toward her fragile form. Mom! She cried, the single word laced with pleading and terror. I felt my heart rip apart, a surge of urgency drowned out every other thought. My daughter was caught in this sick web too. I was not just fighting for my freedom anymore, I had to save her. Sever the ties. The apparition shouted again, her luminescence flickering dangerously. A fierce determination ignited in my chest. I was ready to give everything, to extract her from this twisted nightmare. One final surge and I could end this, or could I? Stay with me. I called out, focusing on my daughter, the light coiling around her shimmering form. Would I be powerful enough to pull both her and myself free? As I pushed forward, the shadows coiled tighter, preparing for one last desperate move. And just when I thought liberation was within reach, I felt the walls of the shadows close in, threatening to snuff us both out. What if I failed? The darkness swirled, the air crackled with electricity, and within an instant, my world blurred into a whirlpool of rage and despair. As I reached out, was I destined to become a mere shadow myself? Everything hung in the balance, teetering on the brink of salvation or damnation. The brightness surged like a tidal wave, crashing through the shadows, yet it seemed only to intensify the darkness surrounding us. My heart raced, pounding furiously against my ribcage as I fought with every ounce of strength. Mom! The scream cut through the chaos, sharper than any knife. My daughter reached for me, her little fingers stretching across an abyss of shadows. Hold on, baby. I'm coming. I shouted, desperation clawing at my throat. The light flickered, sputtering like a dying candle, and I felt myself weakening. The tether around my heart throbbed, constricting tighter with each passing moment. Brad's derisive laughter echoed in the background as if he thrived on the torment. Pathetic. You think you can save her? You'll both be lost. No. My voice was raw, fierce. I summoned the energy within me, focusing solely on her. I envisioned her laughter, the carefree sound that once filled my home. The light pulsed brighter, threatening the shadows that engulfed us. I am her mother. I roared, shoving against the weight of darkness, willing the light to grow even stronger. The shadows screamed again, but this time it was not just a cacophony, it felt like they were retreating. Futureless, hopeless, they shrieked as though I were hurting them. Come to me. I concentrated hard, directing that light toward my daughter, who still stood distant and terrified. The air grew thin, charged with raw emotion, and I felt something shifting within me. The apparition beside me flickered, her wisps of light adding to my glow. Breathe. Take everything you have. Let it go for her. With every ounce of love I had, I felt myself tearing away the chains that bound me. It was a cathartic release, a shedding of weight and despair. Suddenly, the shadows recoiled in agony, watching their power diminish. I could see my daughter again, her little fists clenching in fear, her wide eyes locked onto mine. Mom! It was a haunting echo that snapped my concentration. Let go! I cried again, truly releasing the tether. The light exploded, a beacon of hope illuminating everything around us. Searing pain shot through me, a backlash of energy, but I grinned through it all. As I pulled, I felt myself being drawn forward, everything seemed to slow, the air grew thick, heavy with possibility. Brightness enveloped me, and then I felt a connection with my daughter. Take my hand. We're almost there. She reached out as the shadows twisted and surged, but I wouldn't let them take her. Just as fingers brushed against each other, a chilling whisper slithered through the atmosphere. This isn't over. With a deafening roar, the shadows lunged, dark tendrils snapping in our direction like vines on the attack. I felt a desperate urge to pull back, but I'd come too far. No. This stops now. I thrust my arm forward, screaming with all the force of a mother's love. The blinding light surged once more, wrapping around us with a violent brilliance. The darkness shrieked, disintegrating in the intensity, leaving only a swirling void behind, and for a brief moment, there was silence, a perfect, serene silence that blanketed us, and I felt weightless. My daughter was closer now, her touch a gentle warmth against my palm, but then, the ground beneath us trembled violently. The silence shattered with a sickening crack, as fissures tore through the darkness. Panic returned with a vengeance, filling the air with dread. No. Come on. I yelled, drawing on the last strands of my strength. The apparition faded, leaving me alone again, a single heartbeat reverberating through the void. The shadows began to reform, seeping from the cracks like a tide of despair, clamoring for a foothold. Mom! My daughter cried, eyes widening in terror as I whipped around. I felt her slip from my grasp, the darkness clawing at her like ravenous beasts. No. I lunged forward, and just as our hands almost locked, the ground beneath us crumbled further. A swirling vortex opened up, sucking me in like a whirlwind. Jamie. The shadow of my daughter receded, her innocent face fading into the dark. The void swallowed me whole, and screams echoed all around. I was thrust into an abyss, weightless yet trapped. As darkness enveloped me, one thought slashed through the fear: was there a way back? My fate hung in limbo, the shadows beckoning me with their sinister allure. What awaited me in this unending night? The darkness pressed in like 1,000 icy fingers, tugging at my mind as I tumbled through the void. I gasped for air that wasn't there, each breath a desperate plea against the silence that clawed away at my sanity. Jamie! I screamed into the abyss, my voice swallowed by the swirling shadows. There was no answer, only the echo of my own fear, reverberating back at me from unseen corners. I twisted in the void, searching for a way out, but the desperation and chaos melded into one suffocating mass. Suddenly, the shadows pulsed. They coiled and writhed as if alive, whispering my name in haunting tones, Mum. They taunted me, their slithering voices a mixture of my daughter's innocence and Brad's cruel mockery. My stomach churned, bile rising in the back of my throat. I no longer felt weightless, despair dragged me down. The memories of Jamie's laughter were fragile, fading like smoke. The warmth of her little hand in mine, where was it? I won't let you take her. I shouted defiantly, feeling the surge of anger ignite my soul. With renewed resolve, I stretched out my arms, pushing against the darkness, but it fought back. The shadows clawed at my skin, sinking their talons into my flesh. I grimaced in pain, but still, I pressed onward, summoning every ounce of light I could muster. You can't have us. I'm not afraid. The air crackled with energy, the light flickering within me, pushing against the weight of fear. I locked onto that glimmer, envisioning my daughter's face, the spark that kept me rooted to my purpose. She needed me. Desperation now blended with fierce determination. Jamie. I'm coming. I cried out again, my voice gaining strength and urgency. As if answering my call, the shadows hesitated. But only for a moment. They surged forward, and I felt them gripping my legs, dragging me deeper into the abyss. No. I howled, pulling back with everything I had. I shoved against the void, forcing the light within me to pierce through, illuminating the suffocating darkness. It pulsed brighter and brighter, pushing back against the tendrils that wrapped around me. Suddenly, a gate formed ahead. A shimmering portal like an archway of stars beckoned. I blinked at it through the swirling gloom. Jamie! I screamed, panic rising anew as I caught a glimpse of her. The shadows around me morphed into horrifying faces and figures, desperate to stop me, to pull me back from the light. With each heartbeat, I fought fiercely against the dark. Let me go. The shadows shrieked, a cacophony of rage and loss, but I tore through, racing toward the portal. The light enveloped me, filling my vision with radiant brilliance, and just as I lunged through the gate, everything exploded into a kaleidoscope of color. I landed on solid ground, gasping as the world around me flickered, an endless landscape of haze and echoes. Mom. The soft voice pulled me from my haze, sharp and distinct amidst the confusion. I whipped my head around, frantically searching, heart hammering against my ribcage. Jamie. I spotted her, a small silhouette against the swirling fog. She stood alone in a clearing, fear etched on her face. My breath caught. Stay there, baby. Don't move. I yelled, fear flooding my voice as I rushed forward. But the fog twisted and shifted, twisting my path in impossible ways. I stumbled, falling to my knees, the mist curling around me like fingers weaving a web. Each time I thought I was close, the landscape morphed again. My heart sank. Was I still trapped? Had I crossed over to another realm, or was this part of the Shadow's final game? Mom! Help! Jamie's cries cut deep. I could barely see her through the haze, but her voice was clear enough to fuel the fire within me. Ignoring the icy grip of despair, I got to my feet again, pushing through the disorienting fog. I would reach her, I had to. But as I charged forward, a new sound fractured the air, a whispering, slithering hiss which sent chills down my spine. The shadows were not done with me. What are you willing to sacrifice to save her? Everything, or nothing at all? The question invaded my mind, rattling my resolve. Whispers filled the air, growing louder, each voice distinct and chilling. The fog thickened, wrapping around me tighter. I couldn't let them take Jamie. Not now. Not ever. The fog shimmered ominously. I strained my eyes, daring to find her. Then, the darkness shifted, a low rumble echoing beneath my feet. My heart dropped. What will I face next? Just beyond the haze, a hulking shadow loomed, blocking my path. Did I still have the strength to fight? Or had I merely awakened something darker? Every step forward felt like stepping into a nightmare. The oppressive fog wrapped tightly around me, suffocating, thick like molasses. It whispered promises of despair, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched by something monstrous just out of sight. Mom! Jamie's voice echoed again, more desperate now. I pressed my hands against the mist, trying to navigate through its treachery. With each movement, the shadows gathered like sharks, circling, waiting for the right moment to strike. My heart raced, a deafening drumbeat against the backdrop of the eerie silence. Just hold on. I called, the words catching in my throat. How could I protect her if I couldn't even find my way? Suddenly, the darkness forked into two paths, one heavy with despair, the other glowing faintly with an ethereal light. It was a trick, surely. They wanted me to feel hope, to think I could escape. But the weight in my chest pushed me toward the dark. Jamie's screams echoed behind me, a painful reminder that she was in danger, and I was caught in a maddening choice that a low growl came from the shadows. It vibrated through me, sending chills skittering across my skin. Was it a beast? A manifestation of my worst fears? I turned my gaze toward the flickering light, urging my legs to push me forward. Hesitation was death here. Mom! The raw urgency in her cries sent a shiver down my spine. The darkness pulsated in response, tightening its grip. As I took a deep breath, I charged into the light, praying it wasn't a trick. What erupted around me felt unreal. I stumbled into a space that was oddly familiar yet distorted. A warped moment captured in time the living room of my childhood home, the one I'd left behind. The soft pastel walls glimmered and twisted, flickering like a faulty light bulb. It was as if the shadows were reshaping my memories, tainting the past with their presence. Jamie! I shouted, desperation clear in my voice. I felt her near, the connection tugged at my very core. But as I stepped deeper into the warped space, the comforting echoes of laughter and warmth twisted into something sinister. Visages of old family members loomed in the corners, their smiles stretching too wide, eyes hollow and dark. I backed away, panic surging. You're not real. Get away from me. But their laughter morphed into Jamie's voice, blending seamlessly, her innocence lost amidst ghoulish shadows. Somehow, they were using her against me. A hand shot out from the shadows, pale and claw-like, grasping at my shoulder. I swung around, adrenaline pushing me to fight. But the moment I raised my hand to strike, a softer voice cut through the chaos. Mom, please no. I screamed, the icy grip of fear threatening to engulf me again. That wasn't my Jamie, it was a trick. The suffocating fog thickened again, wrapping around my whole body, squeezing. I felt untethered, each breath a panic as the weight of the shadows closed in. My heart thundered louder. If I didn't escape this nightmare, I'd lose her forever. Fight it. Fight, Mom. The voices grew louder, merging into one deafening roar. A pulsing dread sank deeper, and for a moment, I froze. Before I could wrestle with the rising tide of hopelessness, a voice rang out from the dark edge of the room, the trickster of illusions. What will you give up to unveil the truth? The chilling question echoed, amplifying the terror. I clenched my fists, refusing to yield. I had to find Jamie. I had to face whatever this was, even if it meant exposing my deepest fears. Suddenly, the shadows lunged, and as they did, the laughter shifted into screams. The illusions shattered. With an almost unbearable force, the walls bent inward, and the sheer weight of the torment pushed me toward the flickering exit just beyond sight, but the shadows grasped at my ankles, dragging me back. I was so close. I want to let you take her. I screamed, clawing at the ground. Watch as we tear apart your memories. Their voices were a chorus of agony, and I felt my resolve waver. Could I save Jamie without losing myself in the process? The fog thickened once more, swirling violently around me, and with a final push, I broke free. I stumbled, emerging into a world that felt darker than before, a menacing realm where a new figure emerged, cloaked in shadows but unmistakably watching. That I steeled myself, heart racing. What monstrosity awaited me now? The figure smiled, eyes gleaming with malice. Ready to play the game? What choice would I make next? The figure loomed, instantly recognizable but twisted beyond reason. It wore the face of someone I had once trusted, but the smile was wrong, sharp teeth and glistening eyes filled with an unholy delight. Welcome, it crooned, a voice laced with mockery that echoed off the warped walls. So eager to find your sweet Jamie? She is closer than you think. A cold wave surged through me as if the very shadows breathed my daughter's name. I took a hesitant step back, the ground beneath me sticky and warm, almost like it pulsed with a life of its own. "What do you want?" I managed, my voice trembling. The miasma of dread snaked around my throat, squeezing. "Want?" It echoed, chuckling softly. "I want to see just how far you're willing to go." It stepped forward, encroaching on what I believed was my last safe space. The air shifted, becoming thick with something vile, resembling the putrid smell of decay. "Get away from me!" I shouted, panic clawing at the edges of my sanity. I surged toward a narrow passage that twisted into darkness, instinct driving me. I had to move before this creature morphed into something I couldn't face. Dodging its gaze, I ran, my heartbeat pounding a frantic rhythm, drowning out my thoughts. The shadows whispered, low and conspiratorial, peeling back layers of my memories with malicious intent. I heard Jamie's laughter, innocent and sweet, a haunting melody that reflected the deepest recesses of my heart. And then, just like that, it shifted into the sound of breaking glass, a shattering moment of innocence. Images streamed by, reflections of moments lost: her first steps, the day she learned to ride a bike, her tiny body wrapped in a blanket like a fragile treasure. Each memory scraped against my soul with an agonizing sharpness. I pressed my hands against my ears to block the torment, but I felt every pang of nostalgia turn into twisted reality. "Do you want to hold on to these memories? Or do you want to save her?" The creature taunted. "A choice, dear." I stumbled into an expanse, a cavernous room swirling with shadows, the walls impossibly high and meeting at a jagged ceiling that seemed to press me down with its bleakness. Jamie's cries echoed here too, a mix of passion and fear that coiled tight inside me. It pulled the air from my lungs, each breath feeling more labored than the last. The struggle tore me. I had to find her. I couldn't let this monster manipulate my heart any longer. "Jamie!" I yelled, voice crackling with desperation. "I'm coming." A chuckle rippled around me, and then the shadows shifted, creating a scene, a mirror crafted from nightmares. There she was, Jamie, sitting on a cold, black stone surrounded by flickering flames. Her small hands were bound, and terror painted across her face as she glanced in my direction, eyes wide and pleading. "Mom! Help me!" She screamed, a horror I'd never known crackling in her voice. Rage ignited inside me, and I lunged toward her. Every muscle in my body screamed to move, to free her from the binds of this evil. But the shadow creature blocked my path, eyes glinting with the pleasure of my torment. "Will you give up everything to save her?" It hissed, its hands stretching wider. "Even your sanity?" With every ounce of strength fortifying my resolve, I bared my teeth at the monster. "I would give anything." A terrible laughter erupted, booming through the room and wrapping around me in its unyielding embrace. "Then let the game begin." As it clasped its ghastly hands, I saw the room around us morph, the very air crackling with an ominous energy. The shadows bled into reality, and as I locked eyes with Jamie once more, fear curled deeper into the pit of my stomach. What price would I really pay to save her? The darkness closed in as the illusions distorted reality yet again, revealing more than just the horror lurking at the edges. Something deeper, more sinister awaited, exposing secrets I hadn't wanted to face. What would I sacrifice in this hellish bargain? A chilling laughter erupted again, and the darkness erupted with violent force. Where would it take me next? The oppressive darkness pressed down like a weight, suffocating everything within. I stumbled, heart racing as I wove through the wreckage of nightmares and hope. But one thing surged through my mind with unyielding clarity: I had to reach Jamie. Every ounce of my being screamed her name. "Jamie!" My voice echoed, a lifeline into the abyss. I could feel the tendrils of shadow curling around my ankles, attempting to pull me away, but I pushed against them with all my might. The sinister figure loomed in the murky light, its distorted smile widening. "What a dramatic entrance," it mocked, reveling in my turmoil. "Do you really think you can save her? Your very existence hinges on this moment." An icy knot formed in my stomach. Darkness enveloped me, distorting every memory, every joy we would ever have. I had to resist. I took a step forward, fueled by fierce determination. I want to play your game. I shouted, forcing myself to breathe through the anxiety that threatened to paralyze me. The shadows roiled, their whispers growing frantic, clawing at the edges of my mind. What will you give up to save her? Your fear. Your sanity. Even your past. Anything. I screamed, not caring what sacrifices awaited me. I will give everything. With those words, the ground trembled beneath my feet. The shadows exploded around me, a tempest of darkness swirling and whirling like a storm threatening to consume everything. With each pulse, Jamie's cries grew sharper, pulling on my heart with relentless urgency. I felt it, the connection between us. The warmth of her laughter, the strength of a bond that nothing could sever. I pushed through the chaos, rippling memories washing over me like waves. I saw Jamie's first smile, the way she held my hand during her first day of school. I'd give up the world to save her from this darkness. Oh, so dramatic. The figure crooned, stepping forward. But is it truly enough? Shut up. Desperation fueled my rage, and I launched myself toward the tendrils that sought to bind me. You'll not have her. I roared, my voice breaking through the cacophony. Light ignited within me, an overflow of love radiating outward as I merged my will with the flickering force around me. Suddenly, I soared above the shadows, clarity stripping away the poison that tainted my memories. I saw everything. The figure's power surged from fear, guilt, and lost innocence. You're nothing. I cried, and with a surge, I forced it away from my heart, severing the ties that held me captive. The shadows shrieked, disintegrating like mist under the sun's awakening. No. The figure bellowed, the malicious smile fading to a look of pure rage. Jamie. This time, I felt her presence beside me as the storm of shadows ripped apart. Hand in hand, we were unbreakable. The walls of this nightmare crumbled, revealing a radiant light, a promise of safety. And I could see her, standing at the threshold of a new dawn. Mom. She rushed toward me, eyes filled with love and trust. I'm here. I'm here. I gasped, breaking free of the tendrils that still grasped feebly at my ankles. I lunged forward, grasping her little hands tightly in mine. A bright energy pulsed around us, warmth flooding through. Together we sprinted toward the light, leaving behind the grotesque figure screeching, grasping at shadows that slipped through its fingers like water. As we reached the boundary, it felt like we were diving into the most comforting embrace, the dawn of a new day filled with brilliant colors, each hue whispering promises of hope. With a final surge, we broke free into the vastness beyond. I could breathe again. The air was crisp and clear, filled with the melody of chirping birds and the gentle rustle of leaves. My heart soared as I looked down at Jamie. She was safe, absolutely, perfectly safe. We did it. I gasped, pulling her into a tight embrace, the weight of fear dissolving. The memory of looming shadows faded like a distant nightmare. Will the whispers come back? She asked, looking up at me with wide eyes. That I took a deep breath, ruffling her hair. No, sweetheart. We are stronger than that now. I was scared. I know, baby. But we stood together. And we'll always stand together. Here, we create our own light. As we walked away from the ashes of what had threatened us, the whispers remained a faint echo, a memory of what once was but could never hold us captive again. And just like that, we stepped forward into a brighter future. The shadows may have haunted us, but together, we learned to conquer our fears. Together, we would always keep the dark at bay. Don't let this moment slip away. If you want to hear more thrilling stories and see what happens next, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support.